I did use it after all. Good morning. My name is Dan Chikala, and on behalf of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, I welcome you to our worship service. For visual accessibility, I'm a tall white man with graying hair, wearing a red-collared shirt with dark sweater and dark jeans. We're a welcoming congregation. For our newcomers, I encourage you to find a connections card and either use the QR code or fill it out and put it in the offering basket or drop it off at the welcome table in the vestibule. That is. Speaking of our online viewers, I'm sorry, I haven't spoken of them yet. Online viewers, you can use the link in the chat. And now, speaking of our online viewers, let's turn to the camera and wave to them to give them a little greeting from home or wherever they happen to be, the Panera, library, what have you. And now let's greet each other in the sanctuary. That's right. Sorry to cut you off short. I want to jump right in because today we're honored to have two award-winning performers in our midst. Award-winning musician Tom Megan and our guest presenter, Diane Edgecomb. Diane has received 2 Oracle Awards from the National Storytelling Network, first the Regional Excellence Award, and then in 2019, winning the Circle of Excellence Award, which is, and I quote, presented to artists who are recognized by their peers to be a master storytellers who set the standards for excellence and have demonstrated over a significant period of time a commitment and dedication to the art of storytelling. And she is here today embodying the spirit of seminal environmental writer Rachel Carson. In anticipation of that, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Larry Piers, minister here at the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware. I have a feeling of anticipation about today's service. It's been a long time in the planning. You can tell that I've been anticipating stuff because my hair is like all frizzy. For visual accessibility, I'm 6 feet tall, gray hair. I wear glasses, and today I have a stole that has on it the Unitarian Universalist symbol of a flaming chalice, but also trees and plants and so forth. This, I think, conveys what is one of the central aspects of our understanding as Unitarian Universalists, because we come from a legacy of those who recognized that as human beings we can have a direct relationship with nature, and that nature itself can be a source of divine personal revelation to each of us. We can experience a sense of awe in nature, and that sense of awe can be a spiritual sensibility. Those of you who might be joining us for the first time today, you won't know the difference, but those who've come Sunday after Sunday after Sunday may realize we have shifted a little of the format of today's service in order to make room for the kind of program that we have today. I'm thrilled to have invited Diane Edgecomb and her spouse, Tom Megan, to participate in our service today. For our call to worship this morning, I offer these words from Thomas Berry, who is an eco-theologian, who awakened me some years ago to the connection between the earth's wonders and our own sense of wonder. Berry writes, "The natural world is the fundamental focus for the meeting of the divine and the human. We need to look up at the stars at night and recover our primordial wonder that awakened in our souls when we first saw the stars ablaze in the heavens against the dark mystery of the night. We need to hear the song of the mockingbird thrown out to the universe from the topmost branch of the highest tree in the meadow. In all of these experiences, communion takes place between ourselves and the numinous. If we were truly sensitive, we would realize in these moments that the universe is communicating to us the most basic understanding that we really need. So as we gather and worship today, may we recognize the sacred yet fragile connections we have with all of nature, with reverence and with responsibility. May we honor those connections.
If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to join me by lighting it to these words by Reverend Bob Janice Dillon. Here within these walls, here in this community of love and justice, we pause in our busy lives to consider what is worthy of our deepest yearnings. In the time we are given here, may we pay attention to wonder of each moment, may we grieve what is lost, and may we be grateful for our life on this beautiful earth. And may we prepare ourselves for the work love calls us to do, just as we are. May we be the beloved community. Now stand as you're willing and able to join in singing hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning, then remain standing after for the unison affirmation. Please join me now in affirming our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Let us prepare ourselves now for a time of prayerful meditation, feeling yourself held by the chair that you're sitting in, allowing your feet to touch the earth as the earth touches you, feeling that tender connection that we have with all that is. At a time when the folly of war or our addiction to fossil fuels and the unpredictability of our own leaders to act in mindful, skillful, and deliberately thoughtful ways, we must ground ourselves. We must ground ourselves for whatever is ahead of us. And we can draw upon the resource of the earth as part of that grounding within us, between us, and around us. For our meditation, I draw from these words from Thich Nhat Hanh, a meditation that he delivered at the Paris Climate Summit some years ago. It invites us to breathe along in and out in a mindful way. And it begins this way. Breathing in. I know that I am in love with this beautiful, bounteous, life-giving planet we call Earth. And breathing out, I know each one of us carries the earth within every cell of our bodies. In love with Mother Earth, the earth is within every cell of our bodies. As we breathe in, I realize that the earth is not just our environment. The earth is not something outside of me. And breathing out, I know that the earth and I are one. Earth is not something outside of me. The earth and I are one. Breathing in with mindfulness, I contemplate my body and realize I am the earth. Breathing out, I know my consciousness is also the consciousness of the earth. I realize that I am the earth. My consciousness is also the consciousness of the earth. Breathing in, I know that cherishing the earth is not an obligation. Breathing out, I know it is a matter of personal and collective happiness and survival for me and all beings. Cherishing Mother Earth is not an obligation, a matter of personal and collective happiness and survival for all beings. Breathing in, I see that all that is needed for global healing is present within me and all around me. And breathing out, I feel immense gratitude for this miraculous power of transformation. All that is needed for global healing is present within me. Feeling gratitude for this power of transformation present within me. As is our custom, we'll take just a brief moment now to recognize whoever we are holding in our heart, maybe a member of this congregation, a friend, colleague, someone that you know, and you may speak their names into this room or write them in the chat. So who are you holding in your heart today that you would like to lift up their names briefly in this room? For all those names spoken and those unspoken, may they find peace and healing this day. So may it be. Amen.
Rachel Carson. Let's just take a moment to drink in the beauty of the titles of her books. As every author knows, titles are hard. Under the Sea Wind. The sea around us. The edge of the sea, the rocky coast, silent spring, the sense of wonder. What is it about books? It's not the World Wide Web. I mean, you can cuddle a book. You can get crumbs all over a book. And if an author is inspired enough, if they are good enough, if they are real enough and true enough to themselves, then that author's voice is in that book. Their presence is in that book. And Rachel was that kind of an author. And it's a good thing, too, because as I've been saying to myself so many times these days, we need Rachel Carson. We're up against it like Rachel was. And she was really the first one. She was up against the giants, the Goliath of the chemical industry, and they were really on steroids at that time. Yep. They had just finished World War II, And they'd done a good job of it. They had made all kinds of toxic chemicals. But in this practical world, there certainly has to be some other use for these toxic chemicals. Why don't we find another war? Why don't we find some enemy that nobody really cares about? Hey, what about the bugs? What about the insects? Let's make insecticides. Let's make pesticides. And so they did, but they were, of course, not just killing the insects. They were killing everything, including the songbirds. And Rachel Carson sat down to write the truth. She sat down to write Silent Spring. What would it be like if no birds sang like the ones we could hear this very moment, this very morning? And when the book was published, they vilified her. They called her, this is one of my favorites, a woman out of control. They called her hysterical. They called her a spinster. They called her, quite dismissively, cat lady. Oh, that would never happen these days. But she stayed strong. She stayed in her armor. She stayed truthful. She was on a mission. Rachel Carson surprised me a few years ago. She really came into my life in a surprising way. It began, for me, in an ordinary way. I was doing a storytelling performance, and I was doing at this great old historic inn in Maine, New Wagon Inn. It was a rambling, beautiful inn, and it was just above the sea. It was an outdoor performance, and you could hear the rolling of the sea. Well, I couldn't hear it very well because, as at most outdoor events, they put me beside a huge crackling fire. So whenever I get those calls, I have to think, okay, don't put on too much hairspray. You don't have to go up in flames. So I was very excited about it, though, because this was a family storytelling, and I really wanted to tell the story of the blind king, the folktale of the blind king that occurs in many cultures, but this is an inner blindness, of course. And he sets out his 3 sons who are going to bring him the treasures to cure him. Now, the 2 oldest brothers, very practical men of the world, and they go out and they are on their way, they're on their mission, and they see a fox by the side of the road. The fox has its paw caught in a cruel trap. Oh, that would take too much time. On they go. But the youngest brother, and the youngest doesn't mean that they are the youngest really in a family. It doesn't even mean that they are a boy. It means what's soft inside us, what's still young and foolish inside us, what's still compassionate inside us. And when the youngest brother goes out and he sees that fox with its paw caught, he releases it from the trap. And the fox says, maybe someday I can help you. And he mends the broken wing of the bird. And the bird said, maybe one day I will help you. And he even lets the ants cross the road. And there's a lot of them, all carrying things much larger than themselves. Maybe someday we can help you. And as I'm looking out, as so often happens to me during these family storytellings, and I see the shining eyes of children, and I know that they would do the same as the youngest brother. The next day, Tom and I went down a path, a footpath. Do you know how delighted you are when you find an actual path made by feet? And we went down the cliff to the sea. And there it was where the Sheepscot River of Maine meets the Atlantic Ocean, that great mixing of fresh water and salt water, so rich in life. And the sun was sparkling off the bay. And there were 2 Adirondack chairs. Just happened to be sitting there waiting for us. So we sat down, watching the water glinting, but then we saw a gleam off something that was on a stone to our right. And it seemed to be metal. And we went over there. It was a plaque. Rachel Carson. May 27, 1907 to April 14, 1964. Here Rachel Carson was returned to Oceanus, the great ocean river. And then a quote from Rachel, "Most of all, I remember the monarchs." Rachel Carson, I hadn't thought about her in years and years, not since I was like a spindly teenager, hardly a teenager, 13 years old, and I was doing my favorite chore around the house, clipping. For those of you who have ever had to clip around the house, you know you have to get your hands around those giant handles and grink, grink, grink. And it was really, you're down on your hands and knees, and it's so hard, grink, grink, but occasionally I'd see a praying mantis, and once I saw a walking stick. But there was another sound coming from the garage. Zoom, 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 zoom. It was my dad. He was pumping up a canister of DDT. Zoom, zoom. My family loved birds. His family loved birds. His mother, Gar, and we called her Gar because she was so soft you could eat her. Gar. She had taught my mother about birds, and my mother had a bird feeder, and my mother was always so excited if she saw an indigo bunting. And I had heard from a teacher at school that a woman named Rachel Carson had written a book called Silent Spring, and that those chemicals were not only going to kill the insects that were feeding on my mom's roses, they were killing the birds. Zoom, zoom. And my dad walked past me as I was clipping, and he walked past the laundry on the clothesline, and he walked past the bird feeder, and he walked around the corner to where the Japanese beetles were just devouring my mother's roses. And I knew that soon I was going to smell that sickly, sweet smell of the DDT. But nobody confronted my dad. My dad wasn't so bad. He loved nature. He got my hands in the dirt with all the bugs and the earthworms that I really loved, and he gardened every year. And it came from his family. They'd been in Maine for generations, and they always had a garden. Oh, I loved to watch him rake. Yeah, it wasn't a leaf raking, it was raking the rocks out of the garden. And it was like ballet. He would start like this with the large rocks, and then he would with the medium-sized rocks, and then the little ones, and he'd give a flick at the end, and there would be a nice row of stones, and he'd man a few words. He'd just motion to me, and I'd come over with my bucket, and I would gather all the rocks, and I'd put them over at the edge of the cliff, because he made his garden at the edge of the cliff. Dad! Dad! No? I found a worm. Can I keep it? Sure. Yay! My dad didn't always have a garden by the edge of the cliff. As the story goes that I heard it, the first house that we lived in and that he bought, he was so excited because when the backyard of that house ended, there was a barbed wire fence, and beyond that, a pasture, a cow pasture. And when his father came down from Maine, his father saw that, and he said, "Stanley, you got it all." And he got it all not just for himself, but for us too. He said, go on out there, roam around, get dirty. We did. My friend Cindy Scallion would show up at the door and she'd say, "Can Diane come out and play in the pasture?" And so we'd go out there, we'd pull apart that barbed wire fence, and we'd step through into the pasture. And we were so excited because we were going to play restaurant. We'd find a whole bunch of cow pies. And then we'd pick them up. They'd been baking a long time. And we would just kind of wrestle them up. They came up really easily. And they were so flat. They were so silvery and smooth. They didn't smell at all. And then I'd give Cindy Scallion a plate, and I'd take a plate, and we'd give a plate to our magic. Here's a plate for you. And then we'd stick our sticks into the swamp and pull up some goop, which we called spaghetti, and we'd put it on our plates. And then we'd have spaghetti and tea. It was pretty nice in the garden. That pasture we played so much in that recently on a birthday of mine, my sister made a map of the pasture and she named it Birthplace of the Imagination. For any of you who have out there who've played in nature, you know that's true. The old dead tree, which could be a spaceship or a place for Swiss Family Robinson, and place to gather strawberries and flowers for my mother. And there was a great sunken spring house filled with water. Every spring there was pollywogs and gonkadee, 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 the song of the red-winged blackbird. But the pasture was sold. And then my father put on armor. He was gone. So many nights of the week not coming back until late. And our mother said, "He's fighting. The pasture's been sold for development. He's trying to save the marsh." My sister and Cindy Scallion and I stood in the pasture and watched the farm buildings burn. And then my father had a different house and had us moved out of there before we could see the bulldozers come and bulldoze under all that beautiful life. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I stood up. I went around the house, and there I was facing my dad. I said, "Dad?" He said, "What?" And it was like frozen in time. I don't know why my dad had a war on bugs at that time. He liked bugs. He loved bugs. He taught me to love bugs. And I did. When I became in theater, I had a show called Insect Comedy. And I would pretend that I was different bugs, and I did it for children, and I got them to be so they wouldn't say ew, and they would be looking at little insects as characters, and I would travel around in my car doing insect comedy. But one time when I was driving down the road, I saw a flutter of orange and black by the side of the road, and I realized it was a monarch butterfly. It was dazed by the side of the road, and I stopped the car, and I got out of the car. It was still alive, just fluttering, and I picked it up in a cup, and I took it back home, and when I was young, I had a pet grasshopper called Shorty, and I would feed it sugar water, and so I put sugar water into the palm of my hand, and it just will pool in between your fingers, and the monarch walked out on my hands. Did you know they can taste with their feet? And it walked out with its hand and then unrolled its proboscis, and I could feel the little sucking feeling as it drank the sugar water. And I fed it for several days until it started fluttering against the screen door, and I set it free. But I would look for them, my nature friends. One time I was walking past a dry cleaner's, and I saw a bumblebee, the really big ones. And it was in the shelf and the window on the inside, just moving its legs a little bit. And I walked inside, and I put it inside my cup, and I brought it home to put it on Catherine's flowers. And then it flew away. I wanted to do a performance called Insect Rehabilitator. I wanted to do it for adults and for all my friends I knew who were nature buddies. And you can see them sometimes. Nature buddies, you can often discover them when you're in a swimming pool. You'll see someone doing the side stroke, but one of their hands is out of the water like this as they're going to the side of the pool, and you say, aha, they've rescued something. And you get close to them and you say, what was it? And they say, a wasp. You know it's a real nature buddy. And I thought, I'd like to weave into this performance coming across Rachel's stone, Rachel's plaque. Most of all, I remember the monarchs. And at New Wagon Inn, they had said not only were her ashes scattered at this beloved Sheepscot Bay, they said that Rachel's cottage was near there. And I wanted to find out exactly where. So I went on the internet and I did some searching, but I discovered not only was it there, her cottage was now still in the family to her grandnephew, adopted son, Roger. It was still in the family, and I read that someone stayed there, that they had written a letter to Roger, and he had let them stay there. So I wrote a letter. I told them about the monarch, I told them about the bumblebee. I wrote a long letter, and I got back, we have an opening in August. Would you like to come? Yes! And so it was interesting because I told someone who was a political scientist that we were going, Tom and I, up to Rachel Carson's cottage, and he said, what, are you going to channel Rachel Carson? And I said, well, if a political scientist thinks I can channel, yes, we're going to channel Rachel Carson. But imagine if you were going. I was a little nervous. Had I done enough? Was I doing enough? What would she say? What would it be like? And I decided to channel her right there. I decided to open one of her books at random. And I opened it up, and Rachel's voice said, how delicately the ocean creatures respond to every change in temperature. Just the slightest change, and they simply cannot survive. They're much more sensitive than humankind. I closed the book. I rested my hand on the smooth cover. The UN report had just come out. The planet was so hot. It was like it was on fire. Tom and I got in the car and we headed up to Rachel Carson's cottage, which was on Carson Lane. And usually whenever my family would go to vacation in Maine, we would be looking through the trees as we got close to see if we could see the water through the trees. Maine is so rich in trees, but this time we were looking for the first sight of Rachel Carson's cottage. And there it was, a low, one-story, modest, it wasn't a cottage, it was a camp. It was a Maine camp. But the sun was setting behind it. The sun was setting behind it over Sheepscot Bay, glittering on the water, and it was somehow shining through the cottage, shining through that camp, spilling out the front of it. And even though they told us where the key was, even though we thought it was locked, the front door was open. Just the screen door was there, as though she was waiting for us. We went down some handmade steps, which were just flat rocks flecked with mica and moss, and then up a few wooden steps to the main screen door. And as soon as I opened that screen door, I heard a beloved sound from my childhood. Loud and unforgiving. Main screen doors are wound very tight. And you have to wrestle them open, and then you have to be very careful that they don't close fast, because if you don't set them so gently past, they'll go bang, 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 bang. All I could hear was my father, "Don't bang that screen door." But we had things in our hands, and the screen door went bang, 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 bang. And there we were in the smallest kitchen I have ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of small Maine camp kitchens, a tiny little stove, a place beside it for someone just to fit in to do dishes. Tom. And then we went through into the main room. It was a rattan couch on either side, a few chairs and pillows, a highly polished maple long table for meals, but the most important thing, a big picture window. This place was designed by Rachel. A big picture window looking out at the sea, the Sheepscot Bay, at night at the stars. And there on the ledge, Rachel's binoculars. To our right on the wall was a map. As you can imagine, it wasn't of streets. It was of the different levels and depths of Sheepscot Bay. And there was a little area underneath it where shells were carefully arranged, shells from people who visited, maybe shells that Rachel had collected, but the most important thing, you could feel Rachel's presence. So delicate, clear. Tom and I said, they've preserved her here. Nothing has changed since she left. There were bedrooms off in this direction, but we knew the bedroom to this side would be the master bedroom where Rachel would sleep. And we opened the door. Simple Maine camp. Everything was in knotty pine. Just a bed, 2 nightstands. But the head of the bed was by the opening to that long, long porch that stretched the length of the camp, and beyond that, the air from the sea and the Sheepscot Bay. Tom, there's another door here, like a secret door. We opened it up. There was a window that faced the woods and then a highly polished ledge and a chair like a captain's chair where Rachel would do her writing. Bookshelves on either side. Silent spring translated into every language you could imagine. The sun would rise out the east window and set out the west. And there was a chair beside her captain's chair and facing it, as if someone could come and visit, as if someone could come and sit in that chair and talk to Rachel and pour out their troubles. Hey, Tom, there's a secret door here so she can go out. She can go down to the sea and no one will never know. And we opened the door. Well, it was a main screen door. Maybe she would have to open it very quietly. The next morning, we went down, holding onto bushes and stepping on jutting rocks to Rachel's beach. So rich for a naturalist, where the river meets the ocean, and there it was. Rachel's rocky coast and plastic. Plastic. There's a plastic bucket. There was styrofoam. There was Barbies. I don't know what. Clearly Barbie, though. And so I spent my time, and we spent our time picking up the plastic and the trash. And that evening, we were sitting on the porch looking out at Sheepscot Bay, and I was complaining. I just said, I can't believe it that we came here, and this is what I see. And Tom said, let's read from Rachel. Let's read from Rachel. And so he read to me from the edge of the sea, and I heard about the barnacles and the mussels and the little snails and all the amazing things that were going on. And that next day, when I went down to the edge of the shore, sure, I saw the trash. But I was more interested in something else. And so I got to see the little creatures and wonder about that. I even took off my shoes and wandered out into the water. And as I was in some of the pools, I saw these little things, and I realized they were baby lobsters. Baby lobsters. I just stood there, and there was a lobster man out there. I was like, baby lobsters. We were both high-fiving. Thank you, Rachel. As the sun was setting, the day was ending, Tom had gone out, and I thought, I want to go into Rachel's study. I want to write in my journal. I want to write my heart out. And so I went into the study, and I sat in the chair beside her captain's chair. I was already nicknaming it the therapy chair. And I sat there, and I was writing. I said, why? Why do I just see the problems? Why do I see first the problems? And it takes me so long to see the beauty and see what there. And I also spoke what was in my heart. I worry about the young people, I say. I worry about, will they love nature as much as I do? Will it hurt them? I have a grandnephew, Finian. I want to take him out in nature, and I'm just so worried. And I didn't realize how tired I was, and the journal fell out of my hand, but it wasn't the journal falling out of my hand. I realized there was a presence beside me. You dropped your notebook, Diane. Rachel, you're here. Where else would I be when I'm trying to finish a book? Now, you know, I don't often allow visitors when I'm trying to finish a book. In fact, I have a very special sign. I put it out in the front door, and it says, Rachel has gone to Antarctica. It usually does the trick, but I can see that you're here. Why don't we visit. Well, what book are you working on, Rachel? Well, I'm standing up to the chemical industry. I'm writing a book called Silent Spring. Can you imagine a spring with no birds singing? The chemical industry is poisoning everything. That's a good title, Rachel. Oh, are you a writer? No, I'm a storyteller. A storyteller. I thought you were extinct. Nope, still here. What kind of stories do you tell? Well, Rachel, I think you'd like them. They're nature stories. In fact, I have a show called Insect Comedy. You want to see a little bit of it? I mean, I act out the little bugs and get the kids to think that bugs are fun and funny. Like I do a little pill bug like this. And then for the grub I get really squishy. Like this, Rachel. I go squishy. And then the kids go, we're getting squishy. And the centipede like this. And then, of course, an earthworm, because I love earthworms. Well, Diane, I'm sorry Roger isn't here to see it, my grandnephew. I think he would think that it was very funny. You know, I see the things in nature as characters too, that we can get to know, and I try to really bring people into their world. I feel like one of the most important things that I can do is to open a doorway into nature. It can be so healing, and we need healing at this time. Stories are healing. You know, Rachel, stories are healing. I had a pasture that I loved very much, Rachel, and it got developed. And years later, I heard a story. A boy in Duxbury, Massachusetts. His local area was going to be developed, and he got in touch with a nature organization, and he organized the town, and they saved it. It became a nature spot, and I tell that story to fifth graders. I call it The Boy Who Loved the Swamp. Duxbury, huh? What is it about Duxbury? Diane, do you see this letter here? It's from a woman in Duxbury, Massachusetts. I keep it here to give me courage. She wrote what was happening in her very own yard, what was happening to her robins with the spraying of DDT. And she wrote to me asking, is there someone that could help? I tried to find someone else, Diane, but no one would do it. And because of this letter, written by one person, I'm doing it. I have another battle, too. I'm battling cancer. But I'm going to finish this book. I hope I finish this book. I think you're going to finish it, Rachel. I think I will finish it too, Diane. Do you know why? Do you know who I am channeling? I'm channeling Winston Churchill. He knew how to get the job done. Wow, that's wonderful. Now, Diane, I heard you talking in your writing about worried about the young. Diane, this is what we have to pass on to the young. It has to be done, maybe through writers, but also person by person. Take them by the hand, Diane. It's their birthright. Take them into nature. I know that my grandnephew, oh my goodness, Roger, he's wonderful. I'll take him out in the middle of the night. Even when he was a baby, I would scoop him up in my arms and we'd go right down to the shore and he'd be giggling and laughing. We'd feel the sea, we'd feel Oceanus. Take the children by the hand. You know, I have a grandnephew too. He's called Finian, and one time he had a little cup. He wanted to water the flowers, And so I said, Finian, this is how flowers work. They have roots down there under the ground, and then it comes up the stem and out there. So when you water the flowers, Finian, you water the roots. He looked at me with those big eyes, 4 years old, and smiled. Then he went over to a flower and gently took the flower's face and dipped it into the water to get a drink. And then he went to the other flower to get a drink. Oh, that's wonderful. Rachel, how do you keep your center? I'm a scientist. I have to look clearly. And I do look clearly. Oh, do you hear that song? I'm always wonderfully distracted by nature. Do you hear that song? That's the song of the Veery. So ethereal. I love that song, Diane. I would not be able to listen to that song again and derive pleasure from it if I knew that I did not do all that I could. And I have my friends, my nature buddies. We go out exploring, and oh, do you hear that sound at the door, that scratching? I hope you're not allergic to cats. It's Muppet. Come up here. I love my animal friends, too. Rachel, do you know what I see? I see you finishing Silent Spring. I see it changing a generation. I see people stopping using DDT. I see the start of the Environmental Protection Agency. I see Earth Day being established, all from Silent Spring. I see it translated into so many languages. And Rachel, I see you inspiring a lanky 13-year-old kid to walk around the corner and say to her dad to put away the DDT. And do you know what, Rachel? He put it away and he never, ever, ever took it out again. That really happened. Do you know what I see, Diane? I see the full moon rising. And I think it's a perfect time for us to sneak out that back door and feel some renewal. Diane, I don't have a secret back door off this office for nothing. Let's go down to Oceanus. And we both pushed open that main screen door. To Oceanus, the great ocean river.
I've been thinking a lot about the phrase emergency powers lately. Those are the levers many institutions have to pull to bypass guardrails and safety measures to address issues too pressing for the slug of bureaucracy. I've been thinking about the way we've recently declared emergencies over trade deficits while we export war, knowing most of the carnage will happen abroad. That the hell of war will be borne by people far away who look different from us, speak different from us, have a different culture. Or occasionally it'll be borne by the young men and women we send away to do the fighting for us. I've been thinking about how it took one election to set in motion the emergency powers to ostensibly fight transnational gangs. Meanwhile, the last century has been characterized by inaction on a global threat Rachel Carson wrote about 85 years ago. James Hansen first testified to Congress about the imminent perils of climate change 37 years ago. I was 1 year old. I have gray in my hair now, and we're still playing war games over oil tankers in a narrow strait off the Persian Gulf. My life spans this feudal history. I've seen the presidency change hands back and forth, supermajorities come and go, D's and R's have moved in and out of the governor's mansion, and never once has this climate crisis, which has the full force of existential threat, been met with the same sense of emergency, urgency, and action as rebuilding a bridge on I-95. God put in the sky a massive sphere of hot plasma, heated to incandescence by self-sustaining chains of nuclear fusion reactions, pummeling this cold rock out in outer space with enough energy to create and sustain life in and of itself. And we can draw from this bottomless heavenly well whenever we'd like. Yet we're still pumping Mother Earth for bones to burn, to heat our homes, to fire our pistons, and to feed our flock. I'm done holding my breath waiting for someone else to meet this moment. If the state of emergency doesn't come from above, then we'll have to do it ourselves through our time, our talent, and our treasure. We have in our church doors our very own environmental justice task force. They'll have a table out in Parish Hall after the service with more information. You can get involved with that task force. You can commune with us at any number of our earth-based celebrations coming this spring. And of course, there are many ways to give to the church to help with its numerous causes. They'll all be displayed up here on the screen during the offertory music. So now, if you'll please join me in dedicating our offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives and these, our offerings.
They paved paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that we don't know what we've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum. And then they charged the people $1.50 just to see her. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Hey, farmer, farmer, put away the DDT now. Listen to Rachel. Give me spots on my apples, but leave me the birds and the bees. Please, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. You've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Late last night, I heard the screen door slam, and a big yellow taxi took away my old man. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Don't it always seem to go? You what you've got till it's gone. They pave paradise, put up a parking lot. They pave paradise, put up a parking lot. They pave paradise, put up a parking lot.
If you have a chalice at home, you can join me by extinguishing it to these words by Reverend Michelle Collins. May you see clearly without cynicism. May you witness pain without looking away. May you notice wonder even when despair makes more sense. Attention is both an act of resistance and an act of reverence. Choose it constantly. Practice it daily. And come back when you need renewed so you can choose it once again.
Thank you, Dan. Diane, come here for a second. You're a dear friend, and you've given us a gift today, and I want you to all appreciate what you've received. And Tom, wherever you are, oh, there you are, you added the exclamation points, so thank you. So a very few announcements before we do the benediction and our closing hymn, which many of you love. So, all right. So the announcements, for those of you who signed up for the workshop that Diane Edgecomb will be leading, just a few informational pieces. The lunch, if you signed up for that, will be in the parish hall starting as close to noon as possible. The workshop is at 12:30 in Bruner Chapel, which is the education building next door to the church here. And we are organizing as a congregation to help raise the voice for preserving our democracy, for economic justice, and for direct participation in creating the world that we want to see for ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, and their children. And so we're organizing for the new No Kings March in Wilmington. A group will leave from this church. We've put notices in the e-news about this. And could I have a few people who are involved in that in case you need to speak to someone, you haven't seen the e-news? Maybe Lois, you could stand up, and who else might we have? And yes, and Julie and Kate. So if you don't know about it and you want to coordinate some of our activity, you can chat with them during the fellowship time. It's important for us to raise our voices and to let our values be expressed, don't you think? And then finally, this week, I will be away leading a retreat for religious professionals who are preparing to retire within 10 years. It's sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Association, and will be people, religious professionals from around the country. I've been leading this for 10 years, but this year it kind of has a different feeling. So could you hold me in your hearts this week as I do that work? Do you understand what I'm saying? Thank you. Okay, so those are our announcements. Our benediction is from a short poem by Langston Hughes. It's entitled An Earth Song. It's an earth song, and I've been waiting long for an earth song. It's a spring song, and I've been waiting long for a spring song. Strong as the shoots of a new plant, strong as the bursting of new buds, strong as the coming of the first child from its mother's womb. It's an earth song, a body song, a spring song. I have been waiting long for this spring song. As we engage with the beauty of the world around us, let's not forget the beauty. As spring unfolds around us, let's let the beauty of spring may we be infused by the beauty of spring. If you're a parent, make sure you show some of the beauty of the world to your child as an excuse for you to look at it again with fresh new eyes. So now, our closing song, Rise in Body or Spirit, number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains. Thank you.